It's February on the Mousom River, and it's procurement day in the twisty forest. And these vines are going to do just fine for my next project, which is the new holder of. Here we are, August 2024. My thick vine that I got, and I didn't get to use on my last project, I'm going to use this time. And amazingly, on the shores of the Mousom River, we had a whale vertebrae wash up the other day. So I am going to attach it. It just naturally fits into the way the vine curls like that. And then I'm going to have basically the spiral spine be the spinal cord, and then at the bottom I'm going to have a tree trunk, and I'm in the middle of sanding down, getting all the bark off, because I think it's going to look better with it clean. And you can see where a few months ago I was playing around with this and I tried to do some filing with it, and when I tried to sand it down, it made it look worse. So I'm just going to need to take all the bark off. I think it'll look more like a bone too. So yeah, here we go. Okay, the debarking went well. I used that angle grinder, and that thing just whipped right through it. It was crazy. And then finished it off with Dremel. But you can see right here, look at how thick that bark is. I mean, it's about 3-4 millimeters. So I'm going down to the white. I'll get this all smoothed out. And the funnest part of this whole piece, I mean, besides the vertebrae stuff I'm going to do, for this piece, is actually carving a good twisty drop off or thing here. And I'm going to tell you later what I'm going to put there. So it's going to start there and come down. But that takes some skill to get this channel right. And I'm going to try to make it the same width the whole way to make it look symmetric for what I'm going to put in there, which is going to be fantastic. So I'm doing some of the fine tuning, and I might just end up putting a ridge here and then carving out on the inside, but leave a little bit of the bark just for fun. And then, as you can see, there were some pretty bad scuff marks that were left on the turnabouts here from the angle grinder, because it's pretty rough. But as I was smoothing it out with the smaller one, I thought, you know what? That looks a little bit like a whale kind of going under, and those are those lines that you see underneath a whale. And here's the tail coming back. So these are a family of whales. And this one here, you can see it's a little more bulbous right there, almost like he's getting ready to get up and eat a big school of fish. I have the basic outline of the project. This is the first time, so it's pretty excited. And you can see down on the right leg portion that it's shorter than the left. This is just how it came from the beach. I'm going to leave that, and I'm going to put the rollers under it, and I'll have to put like a little artificial lift on the right. And I don't know if you can tell, but there's a slight rightness there. And then you can probably see the grooves I cut out with the saw. And I'm going to put in the spinal piece, or what I'm calling the whale tail, up here, just a slight curve to the left, just how we drew it up. And then at the top, I'll have, this is actually the whale tail itself, these pieces coming up. I'm going to carve, hopefully, we'll see, individual whales as they go down into this opening that I'm going to have cut into the piece. And at the bottom, I'll have a blue pool. And then this will fit inside the log with a window sticking out so we can see it. And then this will be the top piece. Well, I thought for sure this was going to be one of those instances where I can actually use my chisels. Kind of old-fashioned way. But now, once I started doing it, I realized why I went to the major angle grinder. Because this thing's going to do the same thing as the chisel in about 1/10 the amount of time. And, you know, it's kind of fun to use power tools, but I did want to improve my skills on the chisel, but I think I'm going with power tool. All right, I've run into my first major problem, which is part of the whole thing with making these, is trying to figure out how to, in this case, realign, this spine. So you can see we have the sort of base with the legs. I got my little heel lift, leg lift underneath there to even it out, and carving out a huge hole for the spine to go in. I knew this was going to be hard, but I wanted to angle it a little bit the other way, but you can see where the sort of head area, which is the vertebrae, it's a little too far over on the right, and so I'm going to need to straighten that out. The problem is that I run into this chunk, right here, that's split, and so it's going to look weird if I take this whole thing off. So I've been carving little by little to make it go more this way, but I might have to take this piece out because I've got to get it further to the bodies right, and that way I can make a bigger hole. I have a little bit of a hole already in there, but yep, that was the whalebone going down. My first drop, thank God nothing happened to it. It's totally fine, luckily. But sometimes, I have one hand using the phone and one hand doing other things. I don't look around. So you can see I've started a hole there that I can get this into initially, but so we'll see if we can straighten this out and get it more actually to the body's left, which would be that way as it's facing us. We've had some big changes here at Big Tubs on the project. So this caduceus root, which is also going to be a whale, and that is the eye, and you can see the snout ahead of it, and then the pleats, which are the grooves there, that's the mouth that opens way up to catch the fish. That's kind of the head of the whale, and the whole thing is going down into the body. And then you can see I smoothed out the top of the whale's back, and then the whole thing is going to be the pleats all the way up until you get to the tail, and then I smoothed it out again. Now, if you can tell, there's something major missing. Through consensus with my wife and my neighbor, who's a carpenter and good at these things, they recommended I take the loop that was coming over the top off and cut it down so that the vertebrae itself becomes the flukes. And so those are the pieces I cut off. And then we've also added a cool feature, which is this plaster set of hands. And the one on the left over there is me, and this is my wife, to represent the male and female healing touch that we do as osteopathic physicians. And that's the first round of hands, but it's kind of interesting. I had to curl my fingers because I was touching the bottom of the bucket when we were doing the mold, and hers can be straight out, so I'm trying to figure out how I can do another one with a bigger mold, or just deeper. So this is going to go in here, and now it's going to look like it doesn't have something going over the top. So it's going to be a little bit more that just the tail itself is the vertebrae and not the extra stuff in there. And I carved a hole for the spinal cord to go up into the back of the vertebrae. So looking good. Probably wondering why we're starting with the surfer. It's a good question. This is my original diorama, but I'm into the staining phase of the caduceus spine, and I wanted to try to get this blue again, and these would be the pleats on the whale, and you can see how that highlights that a little bit. Even when I did this wave, got some lines that go up in it. So I've sort of done drilling my fancy holes in the piece you can see up there, and there's a one there. That's actually going to be the one that holds the whole thing to the structure. So what I did is I actually found, this was from 4 years ago, but I found the stain that I used on the original, and I had used some white on the wave on the original, but I didn't know if this was going to be too dark, so I mixed one, and you can see I did a light blue here and the darker blue here, and I can already tell that I think I'm going to like this one better because of these score marks. I sort of did a sample. This was the piece that I cut off from the top, the tail. So I got the angle grinder back out, made some more marks, and we're going to see how that looks. That's the other half of the horn coming up, so that we can offset the color a little bit, and see how this goes. But I think the regular blue is going to do it. So. And the regular blue did indeed make the cut, and this is pretty much what the whole thing's going to look like right here. We can see with the hands. Now the thing I'm doing today is I want to put in another double meaning object, which I like things that are hybrid, so in case nobody had noticed, this is going to be a diaphragm, but it's going to be the whale plunging in. The snake has already kind of made its way down to the bottom of the caduceus, although I guess on the caduceus it's actually the head is up, so this is a different one. But this is actually, I'm going to make some type of entryway here, and I'm going to make a flat piece of blue resin, and I'm going to teach myself how to try to put little waves inside there, as if the caduceus is going through the water, but the water also doubles as the diaphragm. So that's the area I think I wanted. I tried it a few different places. I thought it looked good there, because right underneath it was the right turn of the lumbar spine, and it was kind of in this left thoracolumbo, if you want to call it, curve to the left going up the spine. So let's see how that comes out. Well, I got a little unlucky, but some of it was just not good hand placement on my drill. I was using kind of a flat round burr to make a hole for the eyeball for the humpback, and as you can see, the bottom of it grabbed here and did a nice little whirly bird over here. So I'm not quite sure how I'm going to handle all this, but typically the humpback mouth comes down and it goes down to a lower section here. So originally I was going to draw a line in through here, so I need to touch up with some of the blue stain here and around here, because the eyeball fits nicely. This is another story. Not happy with this. That I can touch up. That's going to look like crap, and kind of cuts right across the grain. So I'm going to do a few things and call it a scar that this whale had with an orca, and we'll just leave it at that. At some point I realized I was going to have to put in a handhold back here to lift it up from the back. This is actually the back side, and there's a bend in the wood right here, actually to the left, which is kind of hilarious. You can see how it curves in there because I have it going to the right in the lumbar spine, I think, so this will just make it fun. But the handhold was just going to be kind of a grip hold when I bring it in, but I think I'm going to make it in the shape of the vertebrae like that, and so it's almost like you're lifting up the vertebrae in the back, and there's a little knob of wood that sticks out right here. I'm going to make that the tip of the transverse process on this left side, and I think it'll be better than just kind of making I was going to make sort of a triangular crescent one where I could put my hand under it, but that would be boring. So let's add to the project. So it's a little bit hard to see, but I penciled in the outline of the back of the whale vertebrae, and I want to show you, because people want to know how to get a very fine line that goes around transverse process and stays, how do you get it started to make a sharp edge. So what I do in a situation where it's real delicate like this is I take the Swiss Army knife and I make a deep groove over the pencil line, and I've traced that so that I had a lead. When I use the small Dremel to get things started along the edge, I'll have a deeper groove there that I can follow, and it's less likely I'll do this and slip up. So, just a little big tub tip there. We got a first here today. Got myself a jigsaw because I traced out the pattern of the right leg, which I get to build a heel lift in, or I guess a leg lift. But you can see, I think I'm just only going to attach the right leg to the floor medallion that I just got, which came out really nice. And this leg has a tilt to it, and I just don't want to touch it. I think when I saw that it had a naturally short right leg, I knew I needed to work with this piece. So I want to do as little to it as I can, keeping it in its natural form. So I got a bunch of different blades, and I got the one for fine woodworking. So I'm going to trace that out, see if it works. So I have it tipped upside down. You can see the bottom of the foot area where I'm putting the lift. And once again, I tried manual, cool little shaver, and this was a lot of work for very little help. And I don't know if you can tell, but the bottom leg, or that right leg, is slanted, the wood, and I really don't want to touch this because I want this piece to stay intact. So I had to basically then go with the power tools. Gotta love the Dremel. Power tools are fun. And so I ended up shaving it down with this and just kind of eyeballed everything around. And right now it's looking pretty good, and there's very little wobble. I don't think I'm going to get it perfectly good, but I'm going to be putting drills in holes through there, so that's not super important, but it looks pretty good around. Woo! I'm really excited with this last move. I had carved a big chunk out when I was drilling this in, and it kind of looked like crap. It's still not perfect, but try to smooth that out a little bit, make this a little less noticeable, because when I drew the line in and carved that in, it was still pretty faint, and so you could still see some of the action around the eye. And I really wanted to make sure that people could tell that this was the mouth of the whale, and then it drops down. Now, the reason I kind of made this go back so far is you can see this natural line here goes back far. Now clearly the jaw doesn't open way back there, but all these ventral pleats, or ventral sulcus grooves, that's it, ventral grooves, we'll call them that, they're going to fill up back in here, but I don't know where the jaw actually ends. But what was really cool is that you can see down in, and I had to paint this black inside because the transition wasn't right, and it looks like it has baleen in there, and it's just neat with the way the wood splits inside there to look like baleen. This was really hard to get an angle, but I think that's going to work. Besides having the connector part of the mouth distract away from some of these scuff marks here, this is like my Bob Ross moment, because we got the eye in. It took us a little while. My wife and I chose this one, and we wanted to make sure we had a happy whale, right? You just kind of like the happy clouds. You want to have a happy whale. He's got a big old smile now, and that really adds a lot of good vibes to the piece, I think.